Hi, everyone. I'm Lisa D'Amico, the curator at the gallery at the Rockefeller State Park Preserve. And today I have the pleasure of speaking with artist Raquel Malta, who is in the current exhibit. Welcome, Raquel.
Thank you.
I'm so glad you're here. The work that you've created for this exhibit is outstanding. It's outstanding in composition, execution, absolutely stunning work. But there's one piece that might surprise you that I would like to start with, and that's the great blue heron that you did. That beautiful bird, it's exquisite. And I want to know, do you work from photographs? Do you watch videos? Like, what is the preparation before the execution?
All right, so the preparation for the execution is I actually like to start each painting by learning more about the animal. It makes it feel a little bit more genuine. It helps me learn what I want to say about it. And so for process, I'll watch videos to get a feel for how they move as well. I studied sculpture, so I like to have a much more literally well-rounded vision of the anatomy too of the animal that I create. So I didn't have one piece of reference that I wanted to use. Instead, what I did is I had a collection of different angles, lighting, poses of herons that I used to inform the painting that I made. And it is actually one of my favorite paintings. So I'm glad to have it brought up. It is not like any one that I've done before, and it is also one of the largest paintings that I've ever made.
Really?
Yes, I before this exhibit was working primarily very small. As I said, my background is in sculpture. Many of my paintings were in the 5 by 7 range, going to 8 by 10, maxing out at 11 by 14. So this has been a really fun challenge for me. And I had been wanting to paint larger for a long time. And that and the deer were my undertakings.
The deer painting is it's you're capturing a beautiful moment of a mother with her children.
So that moment is actually particularly special. That's probably one of the most personal pieces because those deer are actually deer that live in the neighborhood that I grew up in. So those are deer that frequent my family's backyard. I've had the pleasure of seeing them multiple times, and that is a firsthand account of watching them nurse right outside our door. Um, we have one very unique deer, which has made it possible for us to observe this family of deer as they get older and recognize them from all the different herds. And that's the piebald deer. And they're so extraordinarily rare to see. So it's kind of amazing that we get that opportunity. And I knew from when it was born, essentially, that I wanted to paint them.
Oh, wow. I love your backgrounds because while they feel like a beautiful marriage between the subject, um, the backgrounds are not, they don't play, they're not the starring role. And you have a very interesting interpretation. Did that come around through, different practices and approaches, or have you always done backgrounds like that?
I have always been experimental, and I really like keeping the animal as my focus. But also, as I mentioned before, I like to learn about them and involve that in the process and in the picture that I'm painting. So my background style has been developing, and I like to find a way to articulate what is happening, what the scene is, without completely devoting myself to it, because that's not what I want the focus to be. I think the bobcat is an excellent example of that. I think I painted pines many, many, many times before I really wanted to push it to the background, and I found painting each of those little lines one at a time to be very overwhelming as an undertaking, but very worthwhile as it created a level of depth that I really, really love without being overbearing and without distracting from the main focus. For the deer, I recognize it's more um, it's less focused. It has trees. It has a little bit more definition. I didn't want to bring it to the level of realism because it felt also like such a magical moment for me, and I really wanted to keep that feeling alive.
I found the background on your hummingbirds different than any of your other paintings in this exhibit. It it's interesting the way you use the stems of those flowers to create like almost color blocks.
So I was actually struggling with the background for my hummingbirds for a very long time. And another reason I keep my backgrounds simple more often than not is because I have so many colors in my painting that it can be difficult for me to find a balance. And I do find myself, I love painting with shapes. Especially, again, I think that comes from my sculptor background. It is really satisfying to me. And I've been seeing myself develop that style of background more. I thought the really bold colors suited the birds. And by making them sections like that, I was able to contrast each of the birds, I think, in a really beautiful way.
Oh, I couldn't
Not
agree
sure
more.
if that answered your question.
It did, and I mean, all of the pieces that you've created are absolutely striking. And there are little nuances that are different in each one, and it's incredible. I think the one that I wanted to ask you about was the detail work in the great horned owl.
So the great owl was actually one of the paintings I had done, one of the first ones from the series, right? And I spent a lot of time building up feathers. When I work with the smallest brushes that you could possibly imagine. So every decision that I make is really a purposeful one. And the medium I use is gouache, so I have the opportunity to layer with a medium that is otherwise very much like watercolor. And I can build up light on top of dark. And the way I paint feathers is not realism per se, but I'm able to get the textures and colors that I really enjoy that I think contrast each other well. And when you look at it closely, it is less realistic, but when you look at it from a distance, it ties in together much more well, which I really enjoy.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Raquel, what's a question that people ask you often about your work?
That's a hard question to answer. Perhaps a lot of times I get the question of what style I'm actually painting in. A lot of people have told me that it's very unique and that even among paintings they see that use a lot of color, similar to how I do, it has a very different technique or result, I suppose. And it's a hard question to answer. I don't quite know how to define what style I'm working in. For me, it's much closer to realism, and what I tell people is in my brain, I just turn the saturation up and I don't paint with colors that I don't see. And when I look at people's faces, I like to pull out the purples and reds and greens. Those are my favorite colors to start with. I'm mixing them a lot. Alizarin crimson is perhaps a pigment I cannot live without. Um, and I don't paint with any colors that I don't see. I perhaps exaggerate them, but even while I'm working with them, it doesn't feel like I am. So when I step back and look at it, it's a nice surprise.
Raquel, is there anything you'd like to share that we haven't covered?
I'm not sure, but I will delight in talking more about my artwork to anyone who would like to. A lot of these animals are really special because they're ones that are actually around where I grew up. And even if I don't have a personal relationship to them, I have a lot of stories where they connect in my life. That's true for black bears being a calm nuisance in a place I frequently visit in Vermont, where one stole a freezer and just dragged it away. Uh, to the mother who would walk her cubs around very, very early in the morning in my neighborhood during COVID. So those are really special thoughts for the bobcat. There's a story that when I was a very, very small child, my family was in the Bear Mountain Zoo, and there was a bobcat that was in the enclosure. But as the Bear Mountain Zoo houses animals that are local, it was a bit of a shock to my father to find out there was a bobcat outside of the enclosure as well. And he picked up both my brother and I, as the small children that we were, and promptly moved us away. But there are stories like that, and these are animals that I've always known have been in my proximity, so they've been extra special to me to bring alive in my own way for this exhibit.
Raquel, thank you so much. Your work is exquisite, and you are someone I could listen to for days, honestly. And I hope that everybody watching and listening follows you online, visits your website because they will not be disappointed. And to go on the journey of art with you is exciting and also comforting all at the same time.
I'm glad, and I'm honored to be a part of the show. So thank you for including me so enthusiastically. Thank you to the Rockefeller Gallery at the Nature Preserve. I am so delighted to be able to be a part of this in a space that values the nature that I adore.